Yvonne, quick, thank you very much. And seeing Rocky Parson and some of my old friends around here, Bob, brings back a lot of memories of the old days. I don't know whether you folks can stand another 10 minutes in those seats. We ought to take an hour's break, I think. However, the RCMP flew me down here day before yesterday from Manuvik with a bunch of prisoners. I got Northright's cap here. They're going to fly me back to Cove Lake tomorrow. On the 5th of May, 1989, we had the RCMP Twin Otter, MPH, landing at Cove Lake to pick up the Corporal Cunningham and his wife and dog to return them to Fort Good Hope. The pilot, Gary Butt, came down to the mission, and I asked him if he had time to go over and see my museum and art gallery. And Gary said, "No, we're in a hurry. We've got a load of furniture for one of our members at Sachs Harbor, and we got to get there today, some other time." So we went back up to the strip. I used my ATV, the four-wheeler, to bring up Cunningham and his gear, loaded the MPH, and Captain Butt taxied down to the south end of the strip, and then gave her the gun. I watched fascinated as he swung left, and in correcting the error, touched the runway with his port wing tip. Apparently he had not set his nose wheel. I understand you've got to set that nose wheel and lock it once you lined up with the runway. Is that correct, Bob? Yeah, Brock would know. Anyways, Captain Butt had neglected to do that, and swung over to the left, overcorrected, touched the runway with his left wing, shot off the runway at 35 degrees, too far to the right, hit a hole in the ground that they had been excavating dirt from, about 6 feet, took off his left wheel and leg. And then, still with full power, he just couldn't seem to abort. He went right over the dump and dropped 75 feet and landed in a snowbank. And I ran up there with my ATV to give him assistance, and his right seat member, not a pilot, had gotten out of the machine and was sitting on an anthill there and squirming and Butt said to me, "You see that guy? He's in bad trouble. You notice that? He's getting deliriums there, and we got to get him out of here real fast." Okay, let's go down to the mission, and you telephone into your headquarters in Inuvik. And he did. And I heard him telling the commander at Inuvik, "A little trouble here at Kovalik with MPH. We're off the runway." And they never did get back on the runway, actually. And after he had completed his call to headquarters, I said to him, "I guess you got time now to see the museum." And he just looked at me. So he walked back up to the strip, and he walked that strip till the chopper picked him up. But the demolition squad was sent down from Inuvik. They decided to dismantle what they had left of MPH there, and took the tail sections off and the engines. I was agent that time for Northright, so they let me go on board with a box and these big clippers, bolt snappers, and I took everything that I could that was loose. And finally they gave me the good leg and the wheel and the tire, which turned over to Warren Wright, who was running Northright at that time. Perry Linton had just sold out to him. Later on, when Jack Van Norman, the head of the Air Division of the RCMP, came up to have a look at what had happened to MPH, he told me that they were going to initiate a new procedure for RCMP pilots that was not just good enough to be a good pilot, but they had to be tested so that they knew they could negotiate and save the plane if they were in trouble. And in this case, Gary Butt failed the test at the last minute and lost the aircraft as a consequence. The boys there from the force borrowed 140 gallons of JP4 from me, and pulled what was left of MPH up to the dump about 300 feet, and then torched it, and the whole thing burned up except for those longerons that apparently have titanium in them and they won't burn. Anyways, MPH died right that day at May 5th, 1989, CAVU day. Never should have gone. Pilot error completely. A couple of years ago here, my friend Max Ward was landing here on the bay with his twin otter, had his wife with him, and had a crosswind, and he made a bad mistake and cartwheeled and took one wing off, and I think one float and so forth. Were you here, Bob?
The next day.
Next day, yeah. I asked Max what had happened, and he said pilot error and fatigue. Mainly fatigue, Bob says. I remember Max flying me up to Fort Ray in his single otter in 1951. We may have taken Judge Bill Morrow up there at that time. Yeah. In fact, I think, Bob, you've got his house, haven't you?
He built the house that I now live in.
He built the house you're in now, yeah, I thought so. Well, I was licensed in 1940, and I've been in the territories now for 60 years, so you're bound to run into a lot of interesting people and see some interesting things happen in the aviation field in 60 years. I came in here, Yellowknife, first in '49. Later on, when I was a teenager, actually, I was trained to fly a Waco F-7 biplane in Rochester, New York. And we were practicing for carrier landings at that time. Later on, I acquired a 180 at Island Airport, Toronto, and flew it up here cross country and kept it at Colville Lake 10 years, hauling the mail from Fort Good Hope.